Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's special Galactic Driftwood After Dark episode. Got some exciting discussion tonight around a new zombie comedy horror movie that we all watched. I'm Bill.
I'm Linda.
I'm Seth.
And I'm Chris.
And we have a couple of special guests with us tonight, Stu Burns and Benito Garcia. Stu, you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
I'm Stu Burns. I'm a semi-regular contributor to Galactic Driftwood. I usually come on here to talk about vampire movies, but I posted a mini review of this movie online, and the crew thought, you know what, we should do an After Dark, so that's why I'm here.
All right. Benito, you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Benito Garcia from Go RPGs. We do everything RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, all kinds of good fantasy fun stuff. And mostly I just play D&D with my friends and get invited to be on a super cool podcast like this.
Yay!
Yay! All right. Well, it's super cool because you're on it. That's what it is.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
Well, also we've got Benito here for a very specific reason tonight, because you also do horror movies and special effects.
I do. We've narrowed it down to we went from 10 or 12 a year to 1 or 2 a year. So we can really handpick, and instead of just doing everything that's out there, we can really pick the things that we're passionate about to show off our talented staff.
And you actually wrote a pretty popular book on special effects makeup, too.
Thanks, I did. It wasn't a how-to book so much as a reference book, so you don't have to go online and sift through a lot of things that you're not looking for. And you can go with the book, you can go directly to whatever it is you're looking for, special or injury-wise, or something that you're trying to replicate in a film.
Awesome.
And what was the book called again?
It's called The Special Effects Guide of Real Human Wounds and Injuries.
Nice. All right.
And it's really gross.
And they're actual physical wounds that people had. These are not just made to look like actual wounds, right?
Right, yeah. They're basically medical photos of injuries and things that people have sustained over time. And I put some feelers out, and I got some people to send me pictures also of things that have tragically happened to them. So that we can put those in the book also.
I'm sharing a picture of it if you'd like to put it on.
Oh, yeah. Let me do that. Here we go.
Oh yeah, Linda? Well, I'm posting a link to the Amazon page in our comments.
That's what it is.
Good job, Seth. Good job, Linda.
Nice.
Right. So check it out available on Amazon. Nice.
There you go.
All right. Well, tonight, as I mentioned, we're going to be reviewing the Japanese zombie horror comedy film, One Cut of the Dead. And I'll let Stu Burns jump in here with a little a summary of what it's about. We're going to talk about it without any spoilers, or try not to get into any spoilers for the first part of the show. And then at the point where we're ready, we'll let everyone know we're going to start talking about stuff that may be spoilerish. And so if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, that would be the time to drop off. All right. So Stu, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Bill. I was sitting around just cruising YouTube one night, and I was watching, I believe it was a What Culture video highlighting some underappreciated horror comedies of the last couple of years. And they bring up this movie called One Cut of the Dead. And the reviewer, there's a combination of, number one, he can't say much about it because the twists are so intrinsic to appreciating the film that he couldn't give anything away. He was also laughing so hard he could hardly get through it. So just from the reactions, I was like, this is really something else. This sounds like a heck of a movie. What the heck is going on here? And all he really could get out was the conceit that this crew is filming a zombie movie, and they end up being attacked by real zombies, which is just a darn meta thing to see. And I thought, well, that's an interesting concept, but then he's really alluding to something much larger going on top of that. So I go on to Amazon, and at the time, the DVD was retailing for like $4, and so I plunked down for that. And watched the movie and was really excited about it. Posted on social media, and saw it with some friends who appreciated it just as much. And the less you know about it, the sort of the better. But the central conceit is that there's a crew that's filming a B movie about zombies, and they get attacked by real zombies, and then off you go from there. The production of the film, just to give a little more before we go to trailer, it was really very unique. It was done by a performing arts college in Japan, which I'm not sure if I can quite pronounce, unfortunately. Let me see, Enbu Seminar Drama School in Tokyo, under the coordination of filmmaker Shinichiro Ueda. And after working with the drama school and other things like that, they really only had a budget of about $25,000 to $27,000, depending on the exchange rate. And the thing ended up grossing about $30 million. I think that's some kind of a record ratio between production cost and box office gross. Now, that was almost entirely in Japan. It got very little international play at all. The movie was 3 or 4 years old, and I'd never heard of it at all.
Yeah, they said, I think I read on Wikipedia that movie had 1,000% return on the box office revenue versus the investment. First one to do that. So.
Nice.
Yeah, 1,000 times the investment was what it made back, which gosh darn it, if you and I can get that good of an ROI on our 401ks and RIOs, we're just doing okay.
Right.
And just as an object lesson, well, I'll get into that during the body of the movie, but the basic plot of the film again is this crew is shooting a zombie movie and they get attacked by real zombies, right. And it starts off pretty goofy and then it gets pretty good.
All right. Well, on that note, let me play the trailer for our listeners so that they can kind of get a view of what we're going to be talking about here and get a little better general idea of what's going on in the show. So here we go.
ここね、表向きは浄水場として作られたんだけど、裏ではある実験に使ってたんだって。ある実験？人体実験。撮影は続ける。カメラは止めない。あの噂が本当だったなんて。最高かよおい。血はもう巻き終わった。死の呪文を唱えるとそれは蘇る。それ？はい、カットー。ゾンビもので生中継でワンカットやっていただけますか。
And I'm sitting here watching it and laughing, remembering it. So
we should probably note really quick, we watch the dubbed version with the subtitles.
Right. So you can watch it in English with English subtitles as well. So
yeah, the dub was pretty good.
Yeah, the dub was pretty good.
Yeah. So now when I'm going to ask everybody going into it what their expectations were before the twist happens. So I guess let's start with Benito. And Benito, you're on mute, so you have to unmute there.
I didn't want you to hear my dog barking.
Okay. So what do you think? Yeah.
So I didn't think it was going to get any better. I thought once it started, I was like, What does Bill have us watching? It wasn't even a B movie. I just felt like, oh man, this is like the most low budget D horror movie ever. But then I thought there must be something in it that, if it's got your guys' attention, that I need to watch. So
Yeah.
I hung in there. It just wasn't getting any. I don't want to say it wasn't getting any better.
Yeah.
It was just not getting any better. And then, but I knew I was going to be on the podcast, so I knew I had to stick it out and had notes, and I was going to have to take it all the way to the end. And I'm really glad that I stuck with it, because it completely takes a left turn inside of itself.
Yeah.
And to the point, I don't want to spoil anything yet, but the point that you're talking about, to where it started to get really good.
Yeah.
It all made sense. It was, it's really worth the watch. I enjoyed it. I really did.
Right.
Very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, and you get to see all the actual effort upon effort that went into the whole thing. I mean, it's just kind of mind-boggling once it takes that twist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not yet.
All right. Well, Stu, let's go with you, because what did you think when you first? What did you think going into it, and then as it's taken that twist, what went on in your mind?
Kind of like Benito. I really had to. I knew there had to be something coming up here. But at the beginning of the movie, I thought, okay, this is just an absolute train wreck in the nicest way possible to put that. I mean, literally. I mean, think of how exhilarating it would be to be on a completely runaway train that's heading at 110 miles an hour on the track. God knows where it's going to go. Just the only thing you know is that you won't actually get killed. That's what I was thinking. Like, okay, I'm just along. These people are just obviously having an incredible amount of fun, and I'm just along for the ride. Turn the brain off.
Yeah,
it's a good. And I'm the type who does. I've watched my share of Ed Wood. I've watched my Toxic Avenger. If I wasn't with you guys tonight, I'd be watching Sven Gulli tonight. I watched a lot of goofy, low budget, just in it for the lulz, sci-fi and horror. And so I appreciate it on that level. As we go in, and this is my little preface here, it maybe takes kind of a rare soul to really enjoy this, because you've got to like that kind of movie enough to stick with it,
Right.
for this 37 minutes of, oh geez, what the hell is this? People who can't even afford editing software, so they do it. So they just stop through 37 minutes straight with no edits. To then you've got to be someone who can really appreciate good movies too, because I know people who will see it's a wonderful movie, it's a really clever movie, and say, "What? Yeah, that's just stupid. I don't even understand that." So you've got to have the capability to appreciate the Toxic Avenger and Akira Kurosawa.
right.
You've got to be able to do them both if you're gonna get this movie.
All right. Chris, let's go to you.
Yeah,
Now you just watched it today.
I did. I was late beginning to watch it, and part of that was probably, what is Bill getting me into, and
Right.
the other half of it is when am I going to be able to just sit down and really barrel through it, right? And so going into the movie, and again, I'll do my best to avoid the plot twist, right, where things pivot a little bit. And going into it, I was taking notes, much like Benito was going through it. And, it went from, this is kind of awkward, weird kind of acting, to appreciating the level of effort on the one take, And there were parts I found just funny, just due to the amateurish nature of it, the low budget film nature of it. And as I think we all kind of found, is sticking through it was well rewarding.
Good. All right. Let's jump to Seth.
All right. Well, so we watched this coming immediately from Lamageddon. So that was kind of setting the expectations for me.
Right.
But Stu recommended it, and
Stu liked it, and if either Stu or Benito comes to me and says, "You really got to check this film out," I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. And we watched it over at our place, and Stu was here too, as well as Bill and Linda. So that was just like getting together and watching movies is fun anyway. But I mean, so strictly looking at the first, like that one cut that you see before we get to the what we've been calling a twist, but isn't really a twist so much, is I think is just kind of impressive on its own.
Right.
Because I mean, do anything that you think you're kind of good at doing and do it perfect for 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's tough. And I read that it actually took them 6 takes to get one 37-minute take that was flawless. So can you imagine going through that whole thing? In my luck, every one of them might have gotten to like the 35-minute part, and then that would have been where it screwed up.
Yeah,
falling apart.
Yeah, Stu actually told us it was they did it in 6 takes.
Right.
But I mean, each take was go back to the beginning and start again.
Right.
So that they shot the whole thing in one take, even if they had to try it multiple times.
Right.
But I mean, just doing that alone is impressive, even if it's cheesy and a little bit weird. But I mean, that's kind of me, cheesy and a little bit weird. So that's right in my wheelhouse there.
All right, Linda.
And,
I'm sorry.
What came after the one cut, like the twist, as we're talking about, and will eventually spoil, was just so good, and it transformed that first part of the movie into being
completely
even better.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. Just one little interjection on the sixth try at finally getting that thing. One of the tries actually went through pretty well, and then they went to look back at it and something screwed up in the camera.
Yeah, that would.
And they're like,
technical difficulties.
Oh, no.
Nothing worse than technical difficulties.
And remember, these are all students. It's like, oh, for crying out loud, what the heck?
Right.
That's another thing that's super impressive. Is this is a student project? Holy cow!
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Linda, what was your thought? You're watching the film. We're going into it. We're starting to watch it. What are you thinking in your mind?
I feel really sorry for everybody who had to sit there with me and watch it, because I don't think I stopped saying, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me!" once. It was the most horrid. I could believe there were students doing it.
Right.
It's the most god awful thing I've ever seen. And it's funny because you get to what you think, you get to the end, and then everybody kind of goes, "Is that it?" And I'm glad we stuck with it, because it was I had a very good laugh at the end. It was very good.
All right. Well, I'll tell you. So going into it for me, I'm going into it thinking it's I saw the trailer and I'm thinking it's just a 40-minute, zombie movie. And so we're watching it, and we're watching it with Stu, and things will happen, and there will be these awkward pauses in dialogue, and you're like, did they forget their lines, or what's happening here? Or even worse, there'll be these awkward lines just thrown in, and you're like,
do you have any hobbies?
Where did this come from? And the whole time Stu was just sitting there biting his tongue, because there were he wanted to say so much, because of course he'd seen the whole thing and he knew where we were at. And so anyway, we stuck with it, and then much to my surprise, the movie didn't end after 40 minutes. It continued going, and that's where everything you see in the second part made the first part make sense. And I thought it was
I will say on that part, right, where it seems like everything is coming to an end.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the time, and I'm looking at the clock of what's remaining on the film, and I'm like, wait, what is going on here? And it was definitely well worth it. I almost thought about skipping ahead. I was like, this can't be it. And I was actually, to some degree, like I said, starting to enjoy it a little bit. For the amateur comedy type thing that I started to get as kind of a takeaway watching this one take.
Right.
And so
I'd say that this movie does for zombies what Shawarma did for superhero movies.
I have not seen Shawarma.
Yeah, I haven't either.
What's that about, Stu?
At the end of the first Avengers movie, they, the credits have completely run, and many of the people have left the theater, and then you cut to a scene of them all having shawarma, and that's how you learn that you do not leave a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie until it's over.
Right.
Yeah. We just watched the new Spider-Man movie not that long ago, and there are still people leaving the theater. I'm like, what are you people doing?
Yeah.
The movie's not over yet. Yeah, the credits are rolling, but this is a Marvel movie. You're here for another 10 minutes. Come on.
Right.
And, before, the term amateur has been bandied about, and so this movie is great in that the first part of it appears amateurish.
Right.
Yes.
And that's they meant it to.
Yeah, and I can tell
definitely not amateurish,
and that's why I started to appreciate it for what it was, because it was very much intentional in the things that were done, and some of the actions that were taken, almost blooper reel like. You could tell that, and that's why I kind of started to appreciate it, to keep watching it, because it was like, all right, where is this going to go?
And that was my thing too. Is the whole second part of the movie is the justification for what you saw in the first part, and it just kind of, your mind just kind of goes.
Pretty much it.
Right. Now, I got a question for Benito. As you're watching the first, 40 minutes of this thing,
right?
What are you thinking of the special effects?
Okay, so I've been watching enough and been a part of low budget, horror movies. Some of the films we worked on, the budgets were big, and some of the movies we worked on, the budget's very small. And you try to do the best you can with the budget you have. And as I was watching the beginning part, I thought their budget couldn't have been more than $5,000, and that's special effects and filming and craft services and transportation. The whole 9 yards is where I thought we were at. And I kept watching, and I was critiquing, and I was like, God, they only bothered to put the makeup on the front of the face and nothing on the neck and the chest. Everybody forgets, a lot of movies, low budget, they forget to do makeup on the bottom of the hands, but it's on the top. And they only do it where the shirt sleeve stops, but if the shirt sleeve goes up. So I was catching all that stuff, and I was just thinking, and I try not to critique. I really try not to, because I want to enjoy a movie, so I can't be too critiquey. But this first half of that movie was so in your face that this is low budget. We want you to know this is low budget. Even though it's not, I was just laughing. I hung in there, but I really thought the whole movie was going to be that way.
Right. Well, do we want to start talking about the second half here? Do we want to put out the spoiler warning, or?
Yeah, I think this is the
Stu,
spoiler
I think you're
warning.
Stu's muted. Hang on.
Yes. I'm unmuted now. That's the story of the world since 2020. I'm now unmuted. Before we go to spoiler free, just one thing to say before folks who haven't seen the movie yet sign off, if they so wish. Because I'm a big movie crier. This movie, I actually did have there is a little bit of tears going on here. I'm just going to leave this out there, tantalizing for folks who are signing off. If you are a father to a daughter or a son, and you've got something you want to say to them, tell them how proud you are of them and all the things they're capable of that you don't think you've ever said to them, say it now. Take this weekend. This is the time to do that. You won't regret it, and it's just the best thing in the world.
All right. Well said.
We need a spoiler warning screen that we can put up with our new software here.
All right, I'll make one.
I was looking on.
Warned.
I was looking on Google, but I don't want to use an image that is copyrighted, so we're gonna have to find one or come up with one on our own.
We also need Bill to read the private chat. Just saying.
No, I've missed the private chat.
Yes, both of you who had the control have missed the private chat.
All right. Well, we'll check it out.
All right.
All right. Let me put this up on here first. So there we go.
Warning.
Spoiler warning time.
Running around like Kermit.
Run for the hills.
Spoiler
Run for the
warning.
hills. All right. Well, let's shoot it to Benito. So Benito.
Yes.
So you're 40 minutes into this show. Okay. And now it starts to change.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening in your mind?
Okay. Well, I figured it out right away, right? I mean, right when it happened.
Yeah.
I didn't have a what the F moment, like, what am I seeing now? As soon as they did that, I thought, oh, okay, now we're going to go back and see.
We're going back in time.
Yeah, we're going to go back and see the birth of the idea and the bringing everything together. So I knew we were in for a different film. Like, again, the quality was great now, and it was very cinematography. It's not the right word, but very cinematic as far as, good shots, good angles, good things were in focus. It wasn't shaky cam.
Good makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I was really excited actually when that second half came around to get into, now what are we getting into? Because the first part was crazy and that was super fun. But now I'm ready for the story. I'm ready to see how we got to where we're at in the first half of the movie. So I was very excited when that came along. And again, just because the quality was better, I was ready for a better movie. Same thing Chris said. I knew that there was still, as I'm watching the clock, it's like, I know there's still another half of a movie to come.
Yeah.
And so as I'm appreciating that, and then it kicks into, I didn't know, obviously, as you're watching it, I didn't know we were going to get to then see it being filmed.
Right.
After all the the talk and the production, I was very appreciative of where they went with that. It's a very, very good movie.
Yeah, I mean, just the thought of putting that whole thing together and sequencing it just right, and the camera, shooting the series. I mean, right. All right. Well, Stu. Stu, let's hop to you. So you're watching it the first time. First 37 40 minutes is over, and now what are you thinking?
Well, I mean when the credits come up, I'm befuddled too. I'm like, what the heck are they doing here? I mean, and so then my mind is kind of racing because I knew I had such great advance notice of this thing, and knowing the genre, I'm like, okay, what's the deal? Because the conceit is that you have making a zombie movie and they get attacked by quote unquote real zombies. Are the credits going to roll and then they're really going to get attacked by other reals? I mean, is this going to step up to that level, or is this going to be an alien terrarium, or what the hell's going to happen here?
Right.
And then they do what they do. They show all the lead up to the movie and then all of the foibles they're having to deal with in making this film and all the improvising they've got to do to make this thing come. And how they pull this off just by the skin of their teeth, and it's a bit of a shocker. And it's also, as I was looking over my notes for this, I was like, okay, what do you compare it to? I'm like, well, like the great Japanese film, like Rashomon, and I'm like, that's dead on, because Rashomon, this one of the probably, if not possibly the seminal film in Japanese cinema, is about telling a story from different angles. And that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing, this movie that's just unraveling before your eyes. It manages to barely keep it together. And then you see the absolutely superhuman effort of this director trying to get this thing to hang together. And director and his daughter, who comes in and says, "No, I'm not going to let my dad fail here. I really respect what my dad does now."
Right.
Which is just fantastic. So I knew something was going to happen. I was thinking a little bigger. I was thinking, Godzilla or some alien terrarium or something like that. But what we got, they kind of brought it down to reality and really showed you just how tough it is to make a movie.
Right.
It gives me more respect for someone like Benito when you realize just how many things can go wrong.
Right.
Your two of your lead actors were they in a car wreck or something? They get held up. And they can't make it to the shoot. So you've got to improvise with two people who haven't rehearsed this thing for a minute. My God! So
right,
yeah.
You
so
name it.
Benito, have you been in that situation?
I've been there.
You have.
Yes. Go ahead.
All right. Well, let's go to Chris then. So, Chris, first 40 minutes is over. We're going into the backside of the movie, and you're still watching. And now, are you getting a little more curious? What's going on in your mind?
I'm curious. I'm trying to find a flow, and because obviously we've kind of set the expectation in the first 40 minutes or so, and what I had been doing was coming up a little bit with some nicknames for some of the characters in the first 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I had the axe kicking, makeup artist lady.
Right.
She was this, seemed to be empathetic person towards the two young actors and turned into this ass kicking woman. As kind of the first 40 minutes went through, she's kicking zombies, she's axing people. And then it kind of shifts. So I had different nicknames for these different members. And as we flip to the other half of the movie, you get basically a different perspective on all of them. And it was, I started having come up with like, A and B side, if you will, nicknames for these characters. One turns out to be more of a drunk than, I think I called him like the kung fu zombie. I don't know what he was doing in there, but there were parts where he's like running around like this as a zombie. I've never seen a zombie do that. There was a lot of things like that. And ultimately the story started to build out. And when you saw where it was going, where this director is hired to build out this one take of a zombie thriller, it was sweet when you see how this all unfolded and what came out to be what was planned to be a very coordinated one take film was a very chaotic 30 some odd minute, crapshoot and getting things to pull together when things started to fall apart in the middle of filming. So, people had to take roles that they didn't initially actually plan for. I thought that was awesome. And how that all unfolded was just amazing. It was, probably one of the better films I've seen in a long time that have that kind of pivot, if you will, during a movie that gives you a completely different mindset by the time you get to the end than where you started out. And it is well worth the trip from the beginning to the end.
All right. Let's jump to Linda this time. So, Linda, now the film has changed. You're in the back half. You're past the first excruciating 40 minutes. And what's happening?
How many drinks have you had by now?
Yeah.
Wait.
This is an After Dark podcast.
That's right. Okay, so I was a little bit like Benito. The talent it takes to do, you don't realize how hard it is to do something live in 40 minutes, right? So the talent it takes to get everything timed right and all those hesitations and all that. What do you do for a hobby? That was all for a reason. It was so funny. It's like, oh, that makes sense. And you really do appreciate the talent that it takes to do all of that in one take in 40 minutes and how everybody filled in where they had to. They're a great team. They really are. They did good.
Yeah, they did an awesome job. All right, let's jump to Seth. So, Seth, you're 40 minutes into the show. Now the show's taken a turn. And what's going on in your mind?
At first, you're really disconnected because they start off with the director's scene of the director's daughter and her causing trouble. And it's just like, oh, how are these connected?
Yep.
And then you figure out that he's a director, and you're like, oh, that's so. It takes a couple minutes to figure out what they were doing, unless you're Benito and you've just got the galaxy brain for these things. So it was a little like disconcerting. It's like, oh, that was okay, and then there's more. Okay, and during the first 40 minutes, Stu had been whispering cryptically, "Remember that. That's going to be important later." and so yeah, they could have just like shown the filming of the one cut of the dead. They could have just shown the filming of the movie, but you do get the background behind the actors and the director, what's going on in his life, and you learn some important things about why the director's wife doesn't act anymore, and why that was important, and then how that plays into the film.
Yes, and when someone requests soft water, you get them soft
Give
water.
them soft
Yeah, you get them soft water.
It's coming out.
If one of your actors is an alcoholic, you don't. Yeah,
You have
don't
to do
let
a
there
better
be
job
any
of hiding the
alcohol
booze.
on set. So, like, all the things that you noticed watching the first part, each one of them gets explained. The odd pauses, that weird part towards the end where the girl is running and hiding from the zombies, and you see one shuffle in with the dirty leg and then turn around and walk away. That was just so much fun to learn, because it was just a guy holding a sign, and they made up his feet. And they shot that whole scene just to tell her, "Stall, we need more time
to get the next part ready."
Pick up an axe.
Oh yeah, pick up an axe.
Pick up an axe. They had to give her an axe.
Pick up an axe, and then she goes outside and is like, God has sent me an axe.
Yep. I am so lucky.
Well, and then and then for me it was kind of well, first, like Benito said, I see, okay, they're going to go back and we're going to see how this whole thing got started, right? But then you start seeing them actually trying to make this live movie and getting all the parts ready so that they can do it live. And the one thing that really was alarming, I think, was, like you said, Chris, the makeup lady, that because two actors were in a car crash and couldn't make it to the shoot, they had to draft whatever they had available. And one of them happened to be the makeup lady, who had done some acting previously, but hadn't done it in a long time because she was, what do they call it, a method actor, where
she got too wrapped up in her role.
She
internalized her roles.
Yeah, too immersed in it. And so they asked her to take on the role of this character that you see in the film. And it doesn't take very long into the shooting. She gets into it 100%. And now they're worried that she's actually going to murder some of the actors.
Yes.
And in fact, they have to like choke her out.
They have to physically restrain her and choke her out. That's right.
There is this fantastic scene, like at the end of the movie, leading up to the climax that it's really important for them to perform. Is like she's gone, or her character's gone crazy and is trying to murder the one surviving girl, and they can't get her to stop. So they choke her husband, the director, chokes her out and knocks her out. And they like play it off like she got hit in the head with an axe. They like make her up really quick. And then one of the very final scenes is the lead girl is like begging with her now zombified boyfriend. And this lady comes out of being knocked out, stands up, and the girl screams and she screams. And then she just drops down again and no one reacts. So in that first, like, that was one of the weirdest things in the watching the one take shot, is just like her standing up going, "Ah! Ah!"
Yeah.
There's an old ninja movie called Ninja Wars, and it stars it actually a pretty well known actor, but in that movie, be it his makeup or how it was shot or whatever, he looks an awful lot like Wayne Newton. And about 15 minutes into this Ninja Wars movie, 2 of the putative ninjas attack using projectile vomit.
No.
And I was like 14 or 15 when I saw this movie, so I'm like, okay, I'm out, I'm done. And so I hop on my bike and get going. When I come back, I'm like, that movie get any better? My brother says, well, turns out Wayne Newton's a ninja, and I just left again. But when I saw that one, the fellow who turns out to be an alcoholic vomit on the other character, I'm like, is this a trope in Japanese zombie movies that the zombies use projectile vomit as a weapon? And I'm like, nope, that's a happy accident.
Well, now I have an interesting question for Benito.
Yes.
Suppose they had come to you, Benito, and said, we're going to do this. We need you to make up these actors live for a 40-minute zombie film. What would that have been like for you?
Chaotic. It would have been, we'd have done it for the challenge because it would have been awesome to do. But yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine not just the actors, just doing when we were doing films, we constantly would test makeups and gags and, constantly. So just the prep time of that, and then trying to, put makeup on and then constantly testing faster, different methods, this and that, and then getting on set. And when you get on set, everything tends to go out the window anyway, and it's all improv and hurry up. And it was extremely stressful, and I can understand why it did. Like, it makes sense why it looked like that.
Actually, it was kind of funny because as I'm watching the second half and you're seeing the actual filming of it, and you're seeing the actors, they walk out and then supposedly they get attacked and turned into zombies, and you're seeing them from the perspective of the second camera now, and there's people, changing their shirts or taking off a shirt, and they've got like a paint bucket and they're dabbing blood on the arms and stuff. And I was thinking of you at that time, and I thought I could see Benito in there doing this kind of thing.
Oh yeah, we've done, like at the end when he's blowing the blood through the tube.
Oh yeah,
we have machines that do that.
Yeah,
sometimes something happens, or you lose a seal, or that you lose all your pressure in your tank, and there's been plenty of times it looked like I was wearing lipstick because my lips were stained from the fake blood from squirting it through a tube with your mouth.
That's so
you
fun.
just don't have a choice. So I've been there for that, for sure.
That would be
but
insane.
I appreciated, as I thought about it more, I appreciated that. I don't even know if I'm going to get this explained right, but when they're shooting the film being made. So there's the camera here shooting this camera guy who's shooting the film.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that. They had actually written in, acting points and cue points and of what's happening, of this camera guy filming this guy. And I picked it up, and it's not that I didn't pick it up earlier, but where it really stuck out was when they had the human pyramid.
Oh yeah.
And that girl kept hopping on and then she'd fall off. Then she'd hop on and fell off. Well, that wasn't real time, or that wasn't an accident. That was a scripted part of, for us watching the film being made to have a suspenseful moment. Are they going to get that shot? Or is she going to keep falling off? What are they going to do? So I appreciate that they actually wrote things in, to the second part of the movie that you're watching, which is supposed to, be the real thing of watching or filming this. I appreciate it the extra mile to, give us some suspense in that area too. Right. And the girl that fell when she was running out of I can't remember what she had in her hand. She ran out of the factory and was coming around the corner and just wiped it. Biffed it,
yeah.
And then got up and she tried to catch herself. And I think she might have stumbled a second time.
She did.
And then she stumbled a third time all the way around the corner. And I love that they kept that in there, just to show the realism of what they were shooting.
Yeah. Well, the part that kind of confused me for a minute there in the original show is you see the guy shooting it. He runs outside and there's some zombie stuff going on, and then somehow he gets like knocked over and the camera gets knocked on the ground on its side, and it lays there for the longest time.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it gets up and it starts chasing after the action again. I'm like, what in the heck was that about? And then you find out the guy somehow he fell over. I can't remember how it happened, but he fell over and he something must have happened to his back because he just
he's
froze
been
up,
fighting
right?
a bad back like the whole
Yeah.
time. It's when he
Yeah,
falls down, he's like paralyzed. He can't move.
And so somebody's got to run up and grab the camera and follow the rest of
The best part about that, when that happened, so that girl that was shadowing him was trying to give him all these camera suggestions, right? Why don't you try and do this Zoom thing? And when she finally, it's her moment. She picks up the camera, she starts running with it. She starts doing the Zoom thing with the camera, right?
That's right.
And you see from the studio perspective, the people are laughing. They're like, "Oh, that's so cliche. That's hilarious. That's awesome." Which she was saying it would be like the whole time, because the cameraman, the main guy, was like, "No, that's dumb. That would never be. That would never be cool." And she got the reaction that she wanted. And of course, as she's running along, she's falling over herself and everything too. The zombie that she's supposed to be filming picks her back up. She keeps running. That whole section right there was just absolutely remarkable.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and especially considering, of course, now I forgot what I was going to say. While we're watching that, because I know the backstory of why this camera work is happening. I'm sitting, on the couch, with Linda on the other side, and Linda says, "Oh my gosh, this is making me sick," and I just got off the couch. I'm like, "Oh my god," because I hadn't picked up on it my first time through the movie, and then when Linda says, I'm like, "Oh yeah, Linda picked up on it." Linda doesn't know she's picked up on it, but she picked up on it, all right.
Yeah, it was incredible. There's so many little pieces like that in the film, and even when it's setting up with the actors in the apartment, the guy that's going to be shooting the film, the director or whatever, and his wife and the daughter, and they're all there arguing and talking about this different stuff. I mean, it was just really, really added to it, I think.
Well,
go ahead.
Bill, aren't you glad that the director finally got to slap that kid around?
Yes.
I was just about to bring that up. So the best part for me, the best character transition, I'll call it, right? Because I was saying I was finding nicknames for people in the first, half of the movie, and by the time I get to the second half, I'm coming up with new nicknames for people just based off of their behaviors or whatever. But there's a scene where that director that plays the crazy guy, right? In the short of the one take that they're doing, obviously, as we said, that the film's about a director that won't stop filming regardless of being attacked by zombies. He wants it all on camera. When they switch over to the second half of this movie and we get a different perspective on things, he plays a very kind of solemn father. That maybe had some aspiring dreams for being a director. So when he has to jump in and act and play this role, it's like a, Jekyll and Hyde type moment. He flips his switch and he jumps in there and he's 100% engaged almost to the extent where even the crew around him is like, is he okay? And I love that part about him, that he jumped in and he went full throttle. And he's yelling at the young girl, I need to see you really act. Your life is a lie. Turns around, smacks the kid around, and for a moment there, I'm thinking, how much of that was him pulling out a little bit of truth?
Oh yeah, like that was definitely the impression I got, is that this was some sort of because he was characterized at the beginning as being someone who is just like you could walk over him and get him to do whatever you want. But then he had to go in there and just like go for it or it was over. And he went for it, and it was it definitely came off as a little bit of therapy for the character after you when you get into the second part. You're like, oh, this is him breaking free.
Yeah. And there's a part in there where he's challenged by one of the studio executives, right? There's a problem that comes up during filming that has to do with the very last shot, and they're supposed to have this camera arm that goes up and gives them a particular view that looks down. I think Linda was sharing this building of this human pyramid earlier on the stream, and ultimately the executives like, scrap it, we won't do it. And you see the director regress a little bit and he loses it at first and almost practically yells at the executive saying, hey, no, we need to do this. This is part of the original plan. It's going to make the difference. And his daughter is the one that ultimately steps in and comes up with the plan, and really comes in her own to show that, she shares her father's visions, if you will, of what this artistic thing will be. And so that father-daughter connectedness that Stu kind of was alluding to earlier really comes full circle. And that's really where the feel-good part of this movie comes out, which I was not expecting. And so it was the whole story around those characters, how developed, especially with the father and daughter, was pretty touching, actually. It really was.
Yeah. Now, the one character for me that I thought was hilarious was the actor that ended up getting drunk, completely passed out drunk, and the director and the crew have to pull a Weekend at Bernie's kind of a thing with this guy, right? And so there's a part where he just they start to suspect this people are getting turned into zombies, right, as part of the original film, and all of a sudden you see this guy who we know later on is actually passed out drunk, just kind of crash up against the glass of the door, and his hands are slapping it, like he's trying to get in, and we find out later that the director's actually holding his body up there, and they're taking his hands and just slapping his hands up against the thing. But, when I saw it the first time through, I thought, well, that was pretty good. I like that part of it. And then you see later on, it's like, oh my God, this is what they had to do and why it looks so little strange, but
zombifying.
I'll interject. We had the same thing happen with us with the lead.
Really?
So they had been, her and her husband had been kidnapped by hillbillies.
Okay.
Hillbilly cannibals. And they had a kill shack. And they had him in a cage off to the side. And then she was laid out on the kill table. And so her arms are tied up above her head, like this. And the hillbillies are going to have their way with her. And there's going to be sort of not super. Anytime you do a rape scene, it's not any fun whatsoever. Right. But so this particular scene needed to happen, and she was extremely nervous about it. And the director's like, can I get you anything? And she said, maybe a couple shots. I could do maybe a couple shots of vodka or something to just sort of take the edge off.
Right.
And so we cut. We're going to take some time so she can build up her nerve. Oh my God! And when she comes back to set, destroyed. 50 sheets to the wind.
Oh my God.
They're helping her to the set. She's holding on to people, and we're getting her on the kill table. We get her laid out. She's flat on her back, and she's laying there. And we're getting ready to do the scene, and she's like, oh, she goes, I'm starting to get the spins. She's like, the room's spinning.
No.
So we had to untie her, sit her up, and she just gets sick everywhere.
Oh, no.
Most of the time when that happens, at least for me, when I'm drinking, if that happens, I'm just done for the rest of the night. Like, just put me to bed, and I'll deal with tomorrow when it finally gets here. But we couldn't. We had, we had a set, we had actors, we had everybody on, the film crew and the lighting guys, and so we're like, oh well, let's give her about an hour. We'll see how she comes around. So within that hour, we're talking about, should we just recast this thing real quick?
Yeah.
And Megan, my wife, was on the special effects crew at that time. She's like, I can play the whole thing. She's like, I can do it. If you need me to, we'll just reshoot up to this point, and then from here on, I'll just take over. And it was a serious conversation for a long time that they were going to have to replace the actor right in the middle of the film. But she came around. She rallied, came around with lots of water and coffee. And however, we got through the whole thing and the shot till, 6 o'clock in the morning till we were done. But yeah, those things happen. It's not
ready. I'm ready for the close.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm ready for you to tape my face.
She was literally hanging on people as they were bringing her.
Oh.
Speaking of vomiting, I like how when we first get introduced to the cast and they're kind of going over the script and looking at things. The young woman who's playing one of the main roles, she it makes a comment, I think, to some extent of, I don't know that I can do vomiting, like someone vomiting on me. I don't know that like my contract will allow it or my company will allow it. And the funny thing about that was the people that ended up getting vomited on anyways, just due to the drunk guy that was running around. And it was just like everyone's kind of surprised. Like, oh, that wasn't part of the script. I was like, no, he literally just vomited up all those guys. And I was like, well, I guess you're not going to get away from that. But yeah, the people that got puked on, I was just like, you know, I thought the same thing. We brought it up earlier. Is, you know, projectile vomiting zombies a thing, and it's really not. So when I saw it in here in the first few sections, and I was like, well, that's a new take on it. And then when you find out how that all came to be later on, I was just like, oh, that's even grosser now.
I think the grossest part of the one for me was the guy that had to use the bathroom.
Yes.
Because of the hard water.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Benito, you've never had a situation like that, I hope.
No, nothing like that I'm aware
of. Yeah, so the hard water guy, we'll dive in on that, I guess.
Yeah.
The hard water guy. So as I mentioned, there's a scene in that after we cut over where everyone's kind of introduced, they're learning what their roles are. They're all sitting on a table, and I had nicknamed him the email guy, right? Because you know, he'd stop in the middle of you know, whatever they were doing and say, hey, is this hard water or soft water? I asked for soft water. I can't have hard water. I emailed you. You know, to him that was like kind of the thing. Like, I emailed you. Why isn't this taken care of? And then later on, he does the same thing. He comes up to someone else and is like, you know, hey, what kind of water is this? I emailed you. This is important. I emailed you.
Yeah, and you like at first you're just like, oh man, he's a bit of a diva, isn't he?
Yeah,
He needs soft water.
How like, no. Find out? Okay, I labeled him as let me see here, the boom mic bum guy, because in the first few minutes of the one take, when you start the movie out, the guy's sitting around not doing a whole lot. He's kind of mopey. He's kind of sitting around, just kind of like this or whatever. So I just labeled him like this, you know, bum boom mic guy. And later on, we find out what was going on, and he was struggling the whole time because he didn't get the right water, and he had to poo really, really bad. And,
and you could see him trying to get out of the building, and they were saying, "No, you can't leave. You can't leave. There might be zombies out there." And
so the scene where he finally bolts and runs from the building, he gets, you know, more or less tackled just outside of there when the rest of the crew goes to get him. And they're like, hey, what's going on? What's so important? What can we help you with? And he goes, it's coming out. You just can't hold it anymore, right? This guy gets wrecked by apparently specific types of water. And the worst part was they didn't let him like get away from that either. Like, they're standing by him while he's taking a dump.
Putting his makeup on.
Putting his makeup on. We don't have time for this.
Would you have wanted to have been that makeup artist?
No,
oh, man, no.
You don't pay me enough for this.
Everyone,
it can always get worse.
Yeah. Man.
But the show must go on.
They did. There's a line that they use to illustrate, you know, what they think of this director, where they say you're fast, cheap, and average.
that was his,
It was sort of, which I rang a bell for me. That's a paraphrase of what they used to say about Roger Corman, the producer of low budget films in the 50s and 60s. You know, just get it done fast, cheap, and average, or fast, cheap, and on time. And here's this guy who's gone through his whole career, you know, just doing commercials, just doing shorts, just turning it in. You know, don't do anything higher than that. Just get it done. And here in this movie, he decides, I want to swing for something. Or he's demoralized. He was ready to give up on the last shot. And his daughter says, no, you're not going to do that, Dad. And then the last shot of the movie, we remember this one. Maybe we should save it as a spoiler beyond a spoiler. When you realize where she got the idea of how to do the crane shot without the crane.
Right.
That just hit me right there. That just hit me right there. That relationship between father and daughter is just that was renewed. I mean, because she didn't have any kind of regard for her dad's work at all until she knew she was going to get to work with this kid who turns out to be a total diva actor, and then she sees her dad stand up to this kid and sees her mom physically slap the kid around. And that's when she realizes, no, this is worth it. What my dad does is worth it. It's worth doing well. And there's the real values there. That resonated.
Yep. All right. Well, you know what? I want to thank everybody for being on the show tonight. It was a good discussion, and I think everybody thumbs up on the movie.
Oh yeah,
yes,
go see it.
All right,
100%.
Absolutely, go see it.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. You can check us out, all of our past shows and future shows on galacticdriftwood.space. We're on YouTube, the videos, and we have our audio out on all the popular audio streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere you want to get your podcast, we're probably there. So check us out, and we'll look forward to catching you again. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.